Well, I wonder what the atmosphere is like in Philadelphia this week. It is week 7 of this National Football League season, and this is Jonesing for Football. Bill Jones in the victorious city of Dallas. Young Cody Winstead in Losersville, USA. That would be the
That's
city
true.
of brotherly shove. Philadelphia. What in the world happened to your Philadelphia Eagles, young Cody?
Very tough defeat to the hands of the New York Jets. And everyone in here in Philly is kind of freaking out, I would say. I think that's a fair assessment after losing to a team that, see, how they do in Philly is they look at their opponent and then they go, that team doesn't worry me. That team doesn't scare me at all. We're going to roll these guys. And then when they don't, oh, yeah, panic sets in for sure.
Especially when the highest scoring team in the history of football is coming to town this week. That's not your Dallas Cowboys. It's your Miami Dolphins. But I think we may have more on that coming up here on Jonesing for Football. And yes, isn't it amazing how life changes week to week in this league? A week ago, the San Francisco 49ers and the Philadelphia Eagles were the only unbeatens, and now there are no unbeatens left. I haven't looked it up, but I'm wondering if this is probably one of the earliest times in the season where we've got no unbeatens left in the NFL after 6 weeks.
Yeah, you're probably right. I know the Cardinals were the last unbeaten a few years ago, the Eagles, I believe, last year. And now through 6 weeks, no one's undefeated. And Bill Jones, we know the rivalry between my Philadelphia and your Dallas is pretty intense, but we could also be having one on the baseball diamond as well, as our two teams are on a collision course for the World Series, it seems.
Taking notice of the red-hot Texas Rangers who came home after taking 2 in Houston, and they we'll see what happens, but it could be, if it winds up being the Rangers against the Phillies, it will be the same week that the Cowboys play the Eagles. That World Series will end. I mean, if it went to 7 games, it would end on the Saturday night before the Cowboys play the Eagles in Philadelphia, the first Sunday in November. This is just delicious for Jonesing for Football.
Playing right into our hands. All right. All right. Let's get into this week, Mr. Jones, because we got to discuss our rundown for the day like we always do it. We're going to lead off with some Cowboys talk. Even though they're on the bye, we're still going to talk about your boys. Then we're going to do our must-watch game of the week. Then we're going to get into some pressures on some guys feeling the heat like we always do. And we're going to end with our weekly guarantee. And nice job by both of us who nailed our guarantees last week. But we're going to start there in Dallas. Your Cowboys 4-2 at the bye week. So, Mr. Jones, give us your state of the boys a third of the way through the season.
I would say the state of the boys is a feeling of relief throughout the charter flight home back on Monday night after the win over the LA Chargers at SoFi Stadium, a game that came right down to the wire, because had they lost that game, sitting there with a 2-game losing streak at 500, 3-3 on the season going into a bye week, it would be, everybody would be, they would want the Texas Rangers to win every game possible to get the focus off of them. But I thought there was a good bounce back for them, and that's something they've been able to do under Mike McCarthy, is bounce back. They're now 10-1 in weeks after a loss. And that stat we had last week about everybody that plays San Francisco the following week loses because they're so beat up from playing San Francisco. Well, the tables turned on that because the 49ers got beat by Cleveland the week after. So maybe we need to look up the statistic. How do teams do after they play the Cowboys? Do they get beat up and they can't play the next week?
That's a good point. I like
that. But so they're sitting there at 4-2, and they've got, I think when we looked at the schedule to start the season, it was top heavy on the backside of the schedule, meaning the second half of the year. And really it starts with when they come back. They got the Rams at home, and then they go to Philadelphia, and then they got their November stretch where with Thanksgiving Day, they play a lot of games in a limited number of days. And and the Rams are a much better team than what we all gave credit to them for leading into the season. So they got to feel good where they are. However, with an injury situation at linebacker with Leighton Vander Esch out several more weeks at least, and of course losing Trayvon Diggs early, it's not the same team as it started the season. And by the way, in regards to San Francisco, we saw last week against Cleveland, they're a different team when they don't have Deebo Samuel and they don't have Christian McCaffrey for the full game, and Trent Williams playing on one foot.
Wow, big shocker. You lose like 3 of your 4 best players and you're not as good. Dang, I should write that one down. That might be like revolutionary there. What do you know?
That's right. And San Francisco went through the first 5 weeks of the season without losing anybody to injury. And then it starts happening for them. It happens for every team. And so it's a test of your depth. And I think the Cowboys feel good where they are depth-wise, but you get to a certain point at different positions, especially linebacker on this team. Now, they'd sign Rashaan Evans, who didn't, obviously, he was just there for a couple of days prior to the game against the Chargers. When they come out of the bye, they'll have Evans probably ready to go playing against the Rams the following week and then the Eagles. That'll help their situation at linebacker.
He's not going to take snaps from my boy Marquise Bell, is he?
Well, Marquise Bell, and I love Marquise Bell, and he had a great game Monday night against the Chargers. Dan, more importantly than either of us loving Marquise Bell, Dan Quinn loves Marquise Bell.
Of course he does.
He is a versatile enough player to where they can do some things with sub packages with him. But I think Rashaan Evans initially is going to be a depth piece for Dan Quinn. And, Damone Clark had over 70 snaps in this game at replacing Leighton Vander Esch at middle linebacker. And so he was on the field a lot more than what he normally is. And so I think Rashaan Evans would be more relief for Damone Clark than that Marquise Bell hybrid position, I think.
Yeah, and probably against run-heavy teams on early downs, I would think that's where Evans probably is your guy.
They needed another veteran linebacker. They never replaced Anthony Barr from last year's team, and he made 10 starts for him last year. And so they were going thin there to begin with, and especially after losing to Marvion Overshown in the preseason.
All right. Mr. Jones, I know your favorite part of the week is when I ask you follow-up questions about the Cowboys. So here we go. Get ready for this. This is a 2-parter.
Okay.
About the Cowboys at the bye. Number 1, I'd like to hear a pleasant surprise for the Cowboys so far, and then the biggest disappointment or a disappointing factor in this team to this point in the season.
Most pleasant surprise, we just talked about him. Number 14, Marquise Bell.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, and this shows you what Dan Quinn knows about football players, okay? Marquise Bell was a safety at Florida A&M. And yet, as we saw in that game on Monday night, he can defend the run. And it was after Overshown went down with the injury in preseason, that's when Quinn told Marquise Bell, you're now a linebacker, you're not a safety, because they have an abundance of safeties on this roster, including the 3 that basically start in Donovan Wilson and Malik Hooker and Jaron Kearse. And then Wanye Thomas is another one who was hurt last week and wasn't available to play. And so Marquise Bell, he was told, hey, now you're a linebacker, and he's taken to that position. Now he's had moments because he's making the adjustment to playing linebacker in the NFL for the first time in his life that he's been out of position. And you're going to have moments like that. He's like a rookie on the field. But I just think the way that he the speed in which he plays, his instincts, everything about him, he's going to have a long career in this league if he stays healthy. And he's really helping this team right now on defense too.
Heat-seeking missile. Love him. Plays downhill, creates havoc, wreck shop. Love those type of players. All right. How about a disappointment, Bill Jones? Doesn't have to be a player. Can be like a factor or something, third downs or, whatever you want it to be. What are you thinking?
When I think of disappointments, and it's kind of an overview, and it goes back to the draft. And my disappointment is when you draft for need rather than drafting best player. Now, you have to keep need in mind. You know how much I love Darnell Washington. And I didn't love Darnell Washington so much as a pass catching tight end, but what he could do for this team as basically a sixth offensive lineman, lining up at tight end and being able to also have the athleticism to develop his as a pass catcher in the league. Now, he was not even on the board for the Cowboys because of a knee issue that they've deemed that as a chronic knee issue. And so that's why other teams didn't draft him earlier either. And he went third round to Pittsburgh. But what I'm getting at is, Mozzie Smith in the first round. The jury's still out on whether Mozzie Smith, what he's going to develop into. But I think they looked at that as they needed to shore up their run defense. And when they looked at the depth of those big defensive tackles in the draft, they felt like they had to go ahead and take him there. He's received some criticism here early on through the first 6 weeks of his NFL career. He is getting on the field for about 20 snaps or whatever. And there's a lot of other players in the league, including your guy, Nolan Smith at Philadelphia, who has taken a few picks after Smith, who hadn't been able to get on the field yet. I mean, it's still early for all these guys, but even look in the second round and Luke Schoonmaker, who I felt coming out of last season, the guy that was going to replace Dalton Schultz was going to be Jake Ferguson. And yeah, you need a second tight end, but you don't have to reach on a tight end in the second round. I think there was enough depth, and Schoonmaker could have been there in the third round. Who knows? But I think Sam Laporta was a guy, the tight end, that I think they really liked, and you could have pulled the trigger on him, who has more pass catching ability and more developed, ready to go right now. That you could have taken him late in the first round. But so those sorts of things are kind of what's disappointing to me when I look back at how this team was put together. And again, reserve judgment on it. The draft is not just for this year, but I just had a feeling that this draft was for this year and trying to fill needs. And in this landscape in the NFL, you can find players that are minimum wage veteran players who can do what Mozzie Smith has done so far, or what Luke Schoonmaker has done so far at tight end. So there's my disappointment so far.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you about, is it time to worry about the Cowboys rookie class? But I think you already answered that.
And again, I'm not worried about them, because I think you look at rookie classes over a 4-year period, and if you look around the league, there are a number of players, especially taken in that late first round of the draft, if you were talking specifically about Mozzie Smith, who aren't getting on the field that much. I mean, you can go to earlier.
Let me say this, Bill Jones. I don't think I haven't done the research, obviously, but I'm just guessing based on my almost 10 years working for the NFL Network and covering this stuff very thoroughly. The lack of production from basically any real rookie is, I would say, is not common from this Cowboys team compared to the rest of the league.
Bill McDonald, taken 15th by the Jets. He's been on the field for 49 snaps.
Right, but okay, let me go through. Mozzie Smith is playing around 20 snaps a game. Schoonmaker around 20 snaps a game. Fehoko is not doing anything. Richards isn't doing anything. Deuce Vaughn was inactive for the Chargers. So it's not just those guys at the top. It's the entire rookie class.
Overshown got hurt.
Got hurt.
But the way scouts look at the draft is, first rounder, you want them to do what Mozzie Smith's doing right now, basically, at late first round, where he is on the field in a regular rotation. You want them to be starting very early in their career. Now, we'll see if Jonathan Hankins goes down. Mozzie Smith is probably starting on this team. He's probably getting some starts. He's in a rotation on the defensive line.
Is good enough to deserve those starts.
Well, and I don't know. I haven't seen him enough. I'm not going to sit here and say that I've looked at every snap that Mozzie. I have no idea. I'm just going off of how much he's playing, and
Yeah.
Interior defensive lineman, unless you're Jalen Carter, who was could have been, should have been first 3 picks in the draft, if not for off the field stuff. Though that's a different tier than what we're talking about late in the first round. I mean, you look late in the first round, and Kansas City's edge rusher, I can't pronounce his last name, Felix the Cat, the Wildcat from Kansas State. He's been on the field for 100 snaps. I mean, he's not playing that much. Tyree Wilson has no sacks so far. He was the 7th pick in the draft by the Raiders. Quentin Johnston, the Cowboys just played the Chargers. Quentin Johnston, even after losing Mike Williams, can't get on the field. He's been the TCU wide receiver who's taken 21st in the draft. He's been on the field for 81 snaps coming into Monday night's game against the Cowboys, and he barely played in that game. He's got 6 catches for 44 yards. It's too early to make a judgment on these guys who are taken at any point in the draft. And so I just don't think 6 games into it you can make a judgment, because there is a transition period that these college players make to the draft. You mentioned Deuce Vaughn, who was a 6th round draft pick. If you go back and he was compared to Darren Sproles, go back and look at Darren Sproles' rookie year with the Chargers. He never got on the field in the offense. His only thing that he did with the Chargers his rookie year was on special teams. And so I don't rush to judgment on what these rookies are doing. Having said that, I do have a criticism of the Cowboys draft whenever they appear to draft for need rather than best player available.
That's fair. All right. Yeah. You ready to shift our attention to week 7, Mr. Jones?
I am.
All right, here we go. How about your must-watch game of the week? Give it to me.
Well, you want the must-watch game of the week, don't you?
Don't take mine. Take any game except mine.
For the 2nd straight week, young Cody, I'm pretty sure, if I'm going down this correctly, the 2nd straight week, we only have 2 games that match 2 teams with winning records against each other. And that would be your Philadelphia Eagles at 5-1 against the Miami Dolphins, Sunday Night Football, another 5-1 team. That obviously is the marquee matchup of the week.
That's my game of the week. You can't steal that one.
And the other one, which I will take, is the Detroit Lions, your Detroit Lions at 5-1, playing at the 4-2 Baltimore Ravens. Who should be favored in that game?
It's in Baltimore, right?
It's in Baltimore.
I think it's a coin flip game. I think there should be 0 spread.
What I saw was Baltimore is a 3-point favorite. The early line was Baltimore was a 3-point favorite.
Okay. I mean, that they should be favored over the Lions at home. I think Baltimore is a good team.
How many field goals did Justin Tucker kick in the last game? Maybe that's why they're a 3-point favorite, because they just going to assume that Justin Tucker is going to kick 8 more field goals like he did last week or whatever. They got to 24 points. I think all 24 were on field goals, weren't they?
I think it was 6 field goals from Tucker, because I faced him in fantasy and I lost, mostly because Justin Tucker was incredible again.
But what I like about the matchup, it's 2 teams that are hard-nosed, physical football teams going up against each other at noon Dallas time on Sunday. And regardless of the records, it's the personalities of these 2 teams that I love. The personalities of the 2 coaches. I mean, this is what you're looking for. This would be better being a November or December game.
That's right. Cold weather teams right here, baby.
And we've got, even here in Dallas, it's starting to feel like fall a little bit. And so this is a down and dirty football game, but I love the way Jared Goff has been playing last year and this year. As it turns out, he's like the perfect quarterback for them. And Amon-Ra St. Brown, he would look great in a Baltimore Raven uniform just as well as he looks great in a Detroit Lion uniform. The new Dan Campbell Detroit Lions.
Yep.
And so anyway, that's what I like about this game. It's a physical brand of football that I can see a game, even though the Lions have some explosiveness on their offense. I can see a 17-14 game, something like that. Well, I guess it would be 18-15 game with the Lions winning over the 5 field goals kicked by Justin Tucker.
There you go. Yeah, I think that game has the potential to have about 65, 70, 75 run attempts. Meanwhile, my game of the week is Dolphins at Eagles. That's going to be 75 or 80 pass attempts, right? So they are exactly opposite. It's going down 12 miles from where I'm sitting right now, Lincoln Financial Field. Dolphins at Eagles. Both teams are 5-1, tied for best record in the NFL. I'll start with the Fins. This is Miami's chance to prove they are legit Super Bowl contenders. They're 5-1, but their wins are against the Chargers, the Patriots, the Broncos, the Giants, and the Panthers. That's a combined 5-24. So not really good right there. Their lone loss was a beatdown by the Bills, which I think you predicted, Bill Jones. And the Bills have by far the best defense that they have faced. The thing I like about the Dolphins that no one talks about, it's their first down production. Everyone raves about the big plays, and those are fun. But the fact that they're averaging 8.09 yards per play on first down, which is the most in the NFL since at least 1995. That's the real reason these Dolphins are on a historic pace offensively and why Tua Tagovailoa is currently the MVP frontrunner. So you're probably thinking to yourself, I wonder what the Eagles defense allows on first down. Well, I got you, bro. Eagles defense, top 10 in fewest yards allowed on first down. So there is the matchup to watch on Sunday night. As for Philly, yes, Bill Jones made fun of my Eagles to start the podcast. Coming off the loss at the Jets against a backup quarterback, but I'm still not worried. Still number 1 in third downs are the Philadelphia Eagles. Number 2 in yards, top 5 in scoring, top 10 in big plays. The two things that are concerning, Mr. Jones, number 1 is Jalen Hurts against the blitz has taken a significant step back from last year. He's one of the worst in the league at this point this season, after being 13th in the league last year in a passer rating of 99. So Hurts against the blitz, not nearly as good as he was last year. And I don't know if you've looked at that Eagles schedule, but it gets really hard really quick. Dolphins at Commanders, Cowboys at Chiefs, Bills, Niners at Cowboys, at Seahawks. Philly isn't playing another team under 500 until Christmas Day, Mr. Jones. And that is why at the beginning of the year, I said the Eagles are going to win 11 games, which was kind of bold considering they won 14 a year ago. I said they were winning 11. I still think that's likely. Having said all that, give me the Eagles on Sunday night in a super close game. I think Philly recommits to the run game. I think they stay ahead of the sticks. And Jalen Hurts makes just enough plays to win on Sunday Night Football.
I was concerned with your quarterback, Jalen Hurts. He seemed to revert back to the Jalen Hurts I remembered at Oklahoma, being coached by Lincoln Riley in that game last week.
There was a little bit of that. He just seemed off. I agree. There was a little bit of that.
That interception at the end of the game was eye-opening. So
double team against the zone. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Almost, cost him the game potentially.
But I'm with you. I think Philadelphia is going to beat Miami in that game. It's that bounce back factor. And it's in this league, it's like a roller coaster ride for teams. And it's time for Miami to come down from the apex of the roller coaster, come down a little bit against what can be a physical football team in the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yep.
All right, what's next on the agenda here?
How about some pressures on, Dr. Jones? Who you feeling?
I am putting pressure on virtually, with the exception of Miami Dolphins, virtually every offensive coordinator in this league. Did you see what happened this past week in the NFL in week 6?
What happened?
There were 30 teams that played. Only 2 teams had byes. Okay. 25 of the 30 teams, 25 of the 30 teams were held to 21 points or less. Only 5 teams scored more than 21 points in games last week. Wow. And those would be Miami leading the way with 42. Jacksonville had 37 against Indianapolis. The Rams had 26 against Arizona, winning, I think it was 26-9.
Mm-hmm.
Baltimore had 24 and Washington had 24. That was it. There were only 2 teams that topped 30 points, but 25 of the 30 teams scored 25 points or less. Compare that to previous weeks. Last week, it was 14 in week 5. There were only 14 teams that had 21 points or less. The week before was 13. And the most that there has been in any season was in any week has been in week 1 when they had 18. Offenses are just finding themselves. And so I think what has happened here is we're now, every team going into week 6, every team had played at least 4 games. Most had played 5 games. And defensive coordinators had figured out what offenses were trying to do. So the defenses have made their adjustments. So now it's time for the offensive coordinators to make their adjustments and add some wrinkles to their offenses. And that number will come up. Now, it usually goes down as the season goes along because of bad weather and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think that was pretty alarming that 25 out of the 30 teams had 21 points or less last week.
Interesting note, Bill Jones. Yeah, my first thought went to, we had backup quarterbacks more than normal last week, and we also had bad weather. Those are the first 2 things that came up. Speaking of, my pressure is on not a backup quarterback, but probably someone who will end up being a backup quarterback, and that's Des Ridder of the Atlanta Falcons. On the road in Tampa this week. Atlanta is 3-3, very much in the mix in the NFC South. But his poor play, including last week against the Commanders, is really hurting his team. Let me rattle off a few stats for you. Completion percentage, 21st in the league. Yards per attempt, 21st in the league. Passer rating, 24th in the league. Now he's putting up these below average numbers with above average talent around him. Look at those weapons, Mr. Jones. Bijan Robinson might win Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's 7th in the entire league in scrimmage yards.
Whoa. What about CJ Stroud?
I said he might win Offensive Rookie of the Year. I said he might win Offensive Rookie of the Year. CJ is the favorite, but Bijan, 7th in the league in scrimmage yards, is right there as well. Drake London should easily be a 1,000-yard receiver. He's not on pace for it. Kyle Pitts should probably be a 1,000-yard tight end. He's also not on pace for it. Plus, per PFF, their offensive line was the 6th best in the league entering week 6. So there's no excuse for the Falcons to be scoring 16 points per game, which is 29th in the league. And if you saw Arthur Smith on the sideline Sunday during Ridder's 3 giveaway performance, Mr. Jones, he did one of these after the interception. It is, oh, what is going on? He looked like all the fans out there.
And for those of you not watching Cody at this time, he put both hands over his head with a big grimace.
Oh no! No!
Right.
One of those things. I can't believe he threw that interception in the end zone. One of those. But it doesn't take a genius to realize he's not pleased with his play at the quarterback position. I think it's very possible with a loss Sunday to the Bucs, we could see Taylor Heineke, who I believe is a better option at quarterback for the Falcons. So pressure's on Des Ridder there in Atlanta.
Wonder if Atlanta hadn't come back from behind to beat Houston 21-19 the week before, if Taylor Heineke might have been the choice last week against Washington, against his former team. And
no, it's entirely possible. I think that he's about to pull the trigger on that. My friend Arthur Smith, he's about to make the switch there. All right, how about some week 7 guarantees before we get into it? let's recap. We'll look back at week 6. Mr. Jones, yours was very bold, saying the Patriots would score not 1, but 2 offensive touchdowns, an offensive outburst from Mac Jones there against the Raiders. It happened. How long had it been since they had 1 offensive touchdown?
I think was it 40 quarters?
Yeah, it was like the entire season, basically, right?
It had been 3 full games.
3 full games.
Yeah.
All right. Well done by you.
What it was 40 possessions, 40 offensive possessions. And it was 3 full games. I think I added it up right where it was against the Jets, where Pharaoh Brown on a 58-yard touchdown catch in the first half of that game. So it was the second half of the Jets game. Then they played the Cowboys. So that's 6 quarters, didn't score. So the Saints, they got shut out. That's 10 quarters. And then the first 2 quarters of this game this past week at Vegas. So that was 12 quarters or 40 offensive possessions. But actually, young Cody, they had 3 offensive touchdowns in that game because my guy Zeke Elliott went 74 yards for a touchdown on a screen pass, but there was a holding call that was very highly questionable. Zeke was scooting past that guy without any problem at all.
This is what it's come to for Patriots fans, counting touchdowns that didn't even count. See, that's right. You need those these days, Mr. Jones.
That's right. By the way, keep an eye on Zeke at the trade deadline. Okay, you got trade deadline fast approaching. And do the Patriots need Zeke if they're going to go 1-5, going on 1-16 on the season? I don't think so. Maybe get a 7th rounder for him.
Interesting.
Gary might be interested.
I like that. All right. Well done by you. Good prediction. My prediction was also correct. I had the Browns defense holding the Niners to 17 or fewer points after San Francisco had scored 30 or more points in 8 straight games. Well, it took rain. It took a couple questionable penalties. It took injuries to Debo and Christian McCaffrey and a field goal kicker who was 9 for 9 to actually miss 2 kicks. But it did happen, and the Browns held the Niners to 17 points, so I'll take it. So, Mr. Jones, what are you thinking for your week 7 guarantee?
Did you watch Justin Herbert for the Los Angeles Chargers on Monday night?
Yes, I did watch Justin Herbert.
What'd you think of him? Who is the better quarterback on the field on Monday night?
I think Dak outplayed Justin Herbert.
Yeah, I was sitting there going, okay, we here in Dallas, not we, but there are people here in Dallas who watch Dak and they go, oh, Dak's not good enough or whatever. I wonder what are the people in LA who care about the Chargers, which I understand are not many. What do they say? They watch Justin Herbert week in and week out. Do they say the same things about Justin Herbert that some people in Dallas say about Dak? Because I would be saying it after watching him. I mean, he missed Keenan Allen not once but twice on what could have been easy touchdowns in that game. And anyway, and I recall the last time that the Cowboys played the Chargers, which was also a 20-17 game. I had some of those same thoughts about Justin Herbert, but we get enamored in, all right, here's a big strapping 6'5", 235 pounder. Here's the prototype size with athleticism, with a big arm. And well, yeah, he's one of the top 5 quarterbacks in this league, but not so much. Having said that, they play at Kansas City this week.
Yeah.
And the theme of bounce backs, the Chargers are bouncing back. It's a division game. They're 2-3 on the season. Now, Kansas City's got extra time to prepare because they played a Thursday night game last week.
Yep.
And of course, the Chiefs are at 5-1. But Justin Herbert, what would be a bold proclamation about Justin Herbert against the Chiefs, who, by the way, have top 10 ranked pass defense in the league this year?
I would say if Justin Herbert can lead the Chargers to a win against the Chiefs, I would consider that bold.
What about a 350-yard passing day against the Chiefs?
That's very bold.
How about 300?
Okay.
Why did I say
300
350?
and a win?
Why did I say 350? No. All right, here's the history on Herbert at Kansas City. He's played there 3 times, of course, in his career. He lost 27-24 last year, threw for 334 yards and 3 touchdowns, a 3-point loss, okay? In 2021, he won there 30-24. He passed for 281 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. And his rookie season in 2020, it was the last game of the season, so the Chiefs weren't playing everybody, but I assume they weren't. But they won, Chargers won 38-21. He threw for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. So in 3 games at Kansas City, he has averaged over 300 yards passing with 10 touchdowns and 1 interception. And I remember, you may remember the 1 touchdown. It was a 99-yard, the 1 interception. It was a 99-yard interception return by Jalen Watson. And you remember it was Gerald Everett, his tight end, who was posting up on the goal line. And he went one way, and Herbert thought he was going to post up to the inside. And Jalen Watt, and so Everett just went and sat there rather than making a choice. And Watson was sitting there and went 99 yards for the touchdown the other way. So it wasn't on Herbert. That interception was not on Herbert. And they were about to score again to potentially win what was a game that they lost 27-24. So anyway, I'll go with Herbert, 300 yards. And did you pick Cleveland to beat San Francisco?
No, I said they would hold the Niners to 17 or less.
So what can I go with?
A win?
About at least a 1-score game. It's a 2-3 team against a 5-1 team.
Yeah, I know.
Playing at the 5-1 team that has extra rest, coming off a mini bye.
Yep.
And a short week for the Chargers.
Yep.
So give me a 1-score game and a 300-yard passing day for Justin Herbert.
Okay.
And we just saw how bad he was on Monday night.
Okay.
Right?
All right. I wrote that down, Mr. Jones.
Okay.
We'll tweet that out later this week. All right. My guarantee is actually also going to come from the Chargers at Chiefs game. A couple weeks ago, I predicted a big day from Kansas City wideout Rashid Rice. He came up just short. He actually did score, but I predicted 100 yards. He came up short on that. But I'm doubling down on this Chiefs rookie. He's going to have 100-yard receiving day for the Chiefs. And the reason this is bold, the last time a Chiefs wide receiver has gone for 100 or more in a game was week 7 of last year. So it's been a complete year, 1 full season. And that was Juju and MVS. They both did it week 7 of 2022. So I think Rashid Rice goes for 100 yards through the air this weekend against the Chargers.
What are the Chargers rank in pass defense in the league?
Probably pretty bad.
32nd. They are 32nd in the league in pass defense. Oh, what a bold proclamation. What a bold guarantee that is. That's receiver's going to have 100 yards. CeeDee Lamb had 117 against them.
Yeah, CeeDee Lamb is also the clear wide receiver 1. Let me run you through the snaps, the percentage snaps for Rashid Rice per week. 31%, then 18%, then 51, 46, 30, 49. He's not even playing half the snaps, Mr. Jones. He played 20 snaps 2 weeks ago. That's why this is bold.
Okay.
They have 1 million receivers there in Kansas City, as you know.
And as you know, my guarantee is bolder than your guarantee.
I completely disagree, but that's fine. Your guy's averaging 300 yards against the Chiefs.
Are the Chiefs going to win? How much will the Chiefs win the game by?
Add that
caveat.
Win that game. The Chargers could easily win.
Oh, okay. All right.
Your guy is actually averaging 300 passing yards a game in Kansas City. My guy has never had a 100-yard rushing or a receiving game. No Chiefs receiver has had a 100-yard receiving game in a year. Mine is way more bold.
All right, we shall see. All right, I like it.
Okay, sounds fun.
And you are on that Rashee Rice bandwagon this year.
I just spotted something. I see what Mahomes sees in him.
Can you have the same guarantee from 1 week to the next week?
It's actually 2 out of 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm tweaking it slightly.
Okay, no more Rashee Rice guarantees. Are you his agent?
I guarantee I will not have another Rashee Rice guarantee the rest of this year. Once he breaks out, then I can't really guarantee anything with it.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, that was fun. And how about we do it again next week when the Cowboys will actually be playing a game? And maybe we'll have a World Series preview as well between the Rangers and the Phillies. And I bet there's a guy on the elliptical in Dallas who would appreciate that, who I think was a pretty good baseball player back in the day. I'd like to see video. I'd like to see video of Babe Laufenberg back in the day. Was he a pitcher or was he a fielder? I don't really know. I'm thinking, where do you think he got that nickname Babe? I'm thinking he was both, and he was probably a home run slugger in the mold of a Babe Ruth.
Yeah. Makes sense. It all makes sense now.
All right. Thanks for joining us for another edition of Jonesing
for Football. See you, babe.